Hi everyone, hope you guys are doing good. Let's get into question 2 on chapter 15 for period cost allocation. Now guys, we're just jumping right into this, okay? So time this recording to the last one that you looked at, it was over an hour. This one's gonna be much shorter because we're gonna be much more specific to the question, okay? So let's get right after it. So whenever reading a question, guys, okay, for chapter 15, we basically have to determine who's the support department and who's the operating, and then we have to see how each support department allocates their cost. Now, fortunate for us, guys, this question is on the easier side because they already tell you the support and operating departments and how each cost is allocated. So we can still read the question, but realistically, guys, there's nothing important like from this paragraph because they give you everything you already need here, right? But we'll still read it. Computer Information Services is a computer company. Its major function areas are computer programming and training. Okay. Now, John Onwood must develop total costs for functional areas. These costs will guide pricing for new contracts. In computing these costs, Onwood's considering two different methods of allocating the support department costs: the direct method and step down. Onwood assembled the following data based on the budgeted costs from his three support departments: tech support, information systems, and facilities. Okay. So, guys, now that we know all the support departments and then the operating departments, we also see here how each cost from the support departments are allocated. Let's go read the required. So required 1, allocate the cost using direct method. Required 2, allocate the support department cost to the operating departments using step-down allocation method. Now guys, for the step-down, remember, always look at how the ranking is done, because for the step-down method, remember, you're building like your staircase, right? So which is the top stair? Here they tell you you're allocating based on highest to lowest cost. And then required 3 is explain to Onwood any differences between the methods. What should be used? Okay, so another theory-based question, guys. We'll go through that at the end. That'll be a little bit more time, okay? So, everyone, getting into it. We have our support department costs. So let me just go set up our board here. So remember, guys, we have our two schedules. We have our cost schedule, and then afterwards we have our proportion schedule, or proportion matrix, because then we have to figure out what percentage is used by the other departments, okay? Specifically the operating, right? So if we're doing the step-down method, we'll have to make proportions for other departments. For some support departments, but at the end of the day, guys, you know, you allocate everything from support to operating, okay? So that's what we do here, guys. We build our cost table, and afterwards our proportion matrix, and then we're done. Now for our cost table, guys, we always start off with our cost before allocation, and then we put all our departments here. So required 1 here, we're doing the direct method. So I'm just put it like this. 1 second, let's adjust this quickly. Let's go put that. So remember, guys, direct method, it's important when building our allocation matrix, our allocation schedule, or proportion matrix, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I almost wrote one direction method, direct, because, you know, required 1. Okay, anyways, direct method, no one direction, not here. So required 1, direct method. Okay, so for the direct method, you remember, you ignore the relationship between support departments, all right? So even though some support departments help each other, sorry, just tripping on my words here. Even though some support departments help each other, we ignore that relationship in the direct method. Remember, direct method, you directly help the operating. Okay? So now we put all our divisions here on top, and because it's the direct method, there's no need to rank anything. So I'm putting here TS, tech support, IS, information systems, F for facilities, then P for programming, T for training, and then we'll put a total over here as well just to check our answers. Okay, now I'm going to copy this all in. There we go. Okay, if you're solving this exam by hand, or even if you're solving on Excel, you don't have this Word doc next to you, just type it out. Sorry about that. Now we put TS, IS, and facility here. Remember, you allocate in order. So TS is first, so TS goes here. IS is second, so IS goes second. And facilities is third, so facilities is here. Then you draw your line down the middle. And then we have our CAA, which is our cost after all our allocations, okay? So this is where we're at right now. So we've now built our cost grid. Now everyone, let's build our allocation grid, okay? Our allocation schedule or proportion matrix. There's so many different names for it. I'm probably going to go back and forth a lot. I just hope you guys know what I mean. So you always start off with this grid because once you have here all your support departments they're going to allocate, you basically have the horizontal up here, right? You basically have the rows and then you have the column set. You're then good to go. Okay, so now let's go do our proportion matrix. Proportion matrix or allocation schedule. Okay, so let's do that here. And let's get to it. So let's start off with our tech support. Okay, so first off, guys, for tech support, we have TS, okay, then we have total, then we have allocation percentage. Okay, so for TS, okay, so first off, guys, for tech support, how many hours does tech support allocate to themselves? Well, guys, No self allocations, absolutely never. So remember, in any question, guys, when you read it right off the bat, you should already move self allocation. So if there's any number here for tech support, it would be blank. Okay, and we do it all over here. So this question, guys, like I said, it's on the easier side. It is past midterm, but it's on the easier side. Look how they already took out all the self allocations for you. There's nothing for you to screw up here. Okay, just letting you guys know that, but you should already know that there's never self allocations in the first place. Okay, so next thing. So tech support, we always, never self allocate. So let's put this here in black. Let's black it out. But now, guys, we're doing the direct method. So is there any allocations between support departments? No. So there's only programming and training. So tech support's based on hours, and it's 60,000 hours for programming, 40,000 for training. So your total allocation here is 100,000. So 60 over 100, and then you have 40 over 100. So your allocation for tech support, for tech support to programming, 60% of the cost will go to programming. And then, guys, the last 40% will go to training. Okay? So, guys, now let's go to the cost grid here. So always sum up the whole row. And remember, guys, your cost after allocations here for support departments have to be 0. So for tech support, we have 30,000 in cost, and now we're going to minus 30,000 here because we're taking this cost and we're passing it over to the other departments. Now, guys, for IS and facilities, there's no cost to be allocated over because we're doing the direct method. We ignore the relationship between support departments. Okay, so you can even black this out if you want to. Okay, but now for programming, we have 30,000 in cost, and if programming uses 60%, the cost allocated to programming is 18,000. Then 30,000 is the cost of tech support. Training uses 40%. So 12,000 is allocated over. And now, guys, remember to check your answer. You can sum the whole line, and it should be 0. Because basically you're taking this 30,000, guys, and you're separating partially to programming and training, because programming uses 60%, training uses the other 40%, and you're good. Now, information systems. Okay, information systems, guys. So let's go copy in this grid again, and let's just put IS here. And then we can do equals that, and then just drag. Okay. And now, everyone, let's actually just erase this. Okay, so now for IS. IS allocates based on hours, and programming uses 40,000 information system hours, and training uses 60,000. So programming uses 40,000. Training uses 60,000. So that means, guys, the total allocation is also 100 hours, 100,000 hours. So 40,000 over 100,000 hours means that if programming uses 40% of information systems hours, and then training uses 60% of the hours of information system, right? Because it's 100,000 total. So programming uses 40, training uses the other 60. So now let's allocate the cost. Now for information systems, guys, we press equals minus on the cost before allocation here, because we're basically taking this 50,000 in cost and we're passing it over to programming and training. Now we're doing the direct method. So basically everything that's in the support gets 0 here. There's no cost allocated to it. There's only cost allocated from it. So we have the 30,000 here that we're minusing. We have the 50,000 for information systems, and you'll see last we have facilities. Okay, and everything else is 0 because we're doing the direct method. Okay, now for information systems, we have 50,000 in cost. Okay, and programming uses 40%. Okay, so that's 20,000. Then training. If we have 50,000 in cost and training uses 60% of it, then that's 30,000. And then you want to do your check. We just sum the whole line, and you'll see here. Okay, you just took the 50,000, you split it 20-30. 20,000 to programming, 30,000 to training, and just like that, now, guys, you are good with the information system allocation. Now, facilities. Facilities is 70,000 cost. So now we have to figure out the proportions to figure out how much of the 70 goes to programming and how much of the 70 goes to training. So let's go build our proportion matrix again. Okay, and by the way, guys, I'm following the columns here. This is programming and this is training. Okay, I don't know why this is blacked out, by the way. This should be blacked out here. So let's go put that. Okay, now let's go put facilities, that's F. And now let's go figure out here how much gets allocated. So facilities, guys, allocates based on the thousands of square feet. And we have 5,000 square feet of programming, 5,000 square feet for training. So let's put 5,000, 5,000. So guys, that gives us a total allocation of 10,000. So basically, guys, 50% goes to programming, 50% goes to training. So we do equals 70,000 times 50%. Then we do 70,000 times 50%, 35,000 a pop, sum it up, 223, 327, And that's a wrap, guys. And we could just check here, and there you go. See how it adds all zeros over here? That means we got it right. And that's our allocation of the support department costs to the operating using the direct method, which is required 1. Okay, so I would like to say, guys, let me know if you have any questions, but I'm here being a loner recording by myself. So just ask me if you have any questions. Don't be shy to message me. Okay, so yeah, guys, build your cost grid. Then afterwards, once you have all the costs down, all your costs before allocations, you build up all your support departments based on the ranking. Here, the direct method, there is no ranking. You can then go start allocating. Okay, and remember, guys, it's always the cost of the department times the percentage used. That gives you your allocation. Okay, now let's go into the harder one, the direct method. Now for the direct method, guys, for the step down method. Okay, we always have to look at how are we building our ranking, right? Because the step down, think staircase, and you don't want to fall down the staircase. Okay, so make sure you build a good table. Okay, so step down method, how do we do the ranking? Based on highest to lowest cost. Okay, so first support and operating here, guys. Okay, still same style, support on the left, operating on the right. And we always start off with our cost before allocation. It's nice to have one constant. Okay, well actually the operatings are also constant here. So we have programming, training, total. Okay, now we have to figure out basically what goes first. Okay, so which department goes first? So we have to see, guys, because we're ranking based on the highest lowest cost, which support department has the highest cost? Well, we see here facilities is the highest. So facilities goes first and their cost is 70,000. Then afterwards, guys, information systems is second place because they have 50,000 in cost. And then the lowest cost is tech support with 30,000. So it's basically, guys, what we did here is like the inverse of the direct method. Okay, but now we're going to be allocating between support departments. Okay, and let's go put this here, drag. There you go, 150, 250. Okay, and let's go put all dollar signs here as well. And we'll keep 2 decimals. Okay, now, guys, facilities is first, so that gets allocated first. IS is second. Tech support's third. Then we have cost after allocation. Okay, there we go. And we build our line down the middle. You know, aesthetics is everything here on Excel, guys. So there we go. Okay, now let's get into it. So first off, facilities, guys, they have 70,000 cost to allocate because remember, at the end of the day, all your costs after allocations have to be 0. Okay, so let's go build our proportion matrix first and foremost. Okay, so for our proportion matrix, let's start off here with facilities because facilities is our first thing we're going to allocate. So we're going to put facilities here, total, and then allocation percentage. Okay, that's how we start off. I hope everyone is okay with that. Regardless, I'm in a tutorial by myself, so I know I'm not getting any feedback. It's just habit to ask that. Okay, so there we drag across, so we have everything. Okay, now let's get to it. So first off, guys, facilities. Is there ever any self-allocation? Is facilities ever going to say, well, listen, our facilities, we're going to allocate a certain amount of square feet to ourselves? No. Okay, you never self-allocate. Otherwise, you're going to be allocating in circles. Okay, so don't do that. You never self-allocate. So the department that you're spreading costs from can't have any costs allocated back to it. Okay, so facilities, guys, even if they have some square feet allocated to wherever they put their facilities products, I'm guessing it's some type of cleaning products, it's not relevant because it's going to get allocated everywhere else. All right, now, information systems, guys. Information systems, we see here, uses 3,000 square feet. Okay, so 3,000, that goes right over here. Okay, then facilities facilities gives 3,000 square feet to information systems, 3,000 square feet to tech support. Okay, so sorry, I went a little bit fast on the first problem here. But if you want to know where I got 1640 from, it's literally just here. Then I did 40 and 60. Then 5 and 5. Okay, now, what we're doing here, guys, basically, I want you to go on like a line-by-line basis, okay? So we see facilities here, and all we have to do, guys, when we see facilities is stick on the facilities line. Okay, so we see here, facilities, information systems, connect the dots, that's 3,000. Then we see here, facilities, tech support, connect the dots here, that's also 3,000. Then we see here, facilities, programming, 5,000. Facilities, training, 5,000. 5,000. So I hope everyone can see what I'm highlighting, okay? So we're basically playing connect the dots. So 5,000, 5,000, and then I'm going to do equals sum, and I'm going to sum up the whole thing because it should be 0 here anyway. Putting a number here, I'll put this in white font just for the sake of it. 0, because you never self-allocate. All right, that looks horrible, looks spooky, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, now I'm press equals here, this, and then I'm just put F4 just so I could drag across. So our total allocation is 16,000, guys. So if 16,000 is the total square feet, and IS uses 3,000 of 16,000. The percentage of cost that's going to be allocated to IS is 18.75%, and we just drag across. So now we have all the proportions, okay? So we know that IS uses 18.75, tech support uses 18.75. Then afterwards, guys, programming uses 31.25 and training uses 31.25%. So now we have the allocation percentages, guys. So we know how much facilities has to help each other department. So now all we have to do, guys, is equals minus the 70,000 times the percentage used by each other department. So I'm just going to drag across, guys, just to save time. So 70,000 times 18.75 is 13.125. Then 70,000 times 18.75 over here is 13.125 again, because literally it's the same percentage, right? Then you drag again. So you do 70,000 times 31.25. So let's go drag. And that just gives you the same number twice. Sorry for sneezing there. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Maybe some of you are just listening with headphones and you're like, what the hell's going on? I sneezed. It's summer. I have allergies. Fortunately, that's something we have to deal with. Okay. So everyone, there we go. We've now allocated all the costs, okay, of facilities to every other department, and I sum it up and I see how I get 0, which means I know I did it correctly, because basically we took the 70,000 in cost and we split it between every other department. Okay, now let's get on to the next allocation, information systems. Okay, so guys, for information systems, remember, you never allocate backwards, right? Left to right, you go down the stairs, not up the stairs. Going up the stairs is tiring. We don't want to take an elevator, okay? Or you do want to take an elevator. Taking this, going up, depends on how many stairs, okay? We won't go to the JMSB elevator example again, where if someone takes the elevator to the second floor, I will turn red. Like I will turn like Elmo, like I'm telling you, okay? Anyways, now, guys, for the step-down method, you essentially want to build your little staircase here, okay? So we go here, and sorry for the drawings, but, you know, let's go here. I'm not in an arts program. No, that's not how you do the staircase, wait. So you put the first stair here. This is more important than the teaching, guys. I have to make sure the drawing is good. There, that's the first staircase. Okay, so remember, guys, we never allocate backwards. So information systems is not going to help facilities, okay? You're going down the stairs. So 0 here. Now, information systems, guys, has 50,000 cost before allocation, 13,000 cost passed over from facilities. So the total amount that we're going to have to allocate from information systems is 63,125. Just make sure to put a minus sign in front. So 63,125, okay? There we go. Now we're going to pass the 63,125 onto every other department that comes afterwards. So we're going to pass over some to tech support, then the remaining to programming and training. Okay, so now to figure out how much we pass over, proportion matrix. Okay, so let's get into it. So first off, we have IS over here. Then, guys, we put all our departments. So facilities, and I drag, then total, and then our allocation percentage. Okay, now next up here, guys. Okay, so oops, I wrote the wait. Let me drag this down a little bit. Okay, let's go center this. Let's go drag this down. Boom. Okay, now for information systems, okay, we have to see how much information systems helps facilities. Well, guys, we're doing the step-down method. So even though, okay, information systems helps facilities by providing them 4,000 hours of support, right? This is the step-down method. So no, 0. Okay, next, information systems. How much does information systems help information systems? Okay, guys, do you ever self-allocate? No. Okay, I'm literally blocking it out here for a reason. Then how much does information systems help tech support? So remember, guys, all we're doing is look at this line here, the line for information systems, okay? Now, information systems helps tech support by providing 16,000 hours, then 40,000 of programming, and 60,000 to training. So we sum up the whole line. Okay, that gives us 116. Okay, now I just press equals this F4, and I could just drag across. Okay, and then I do equals this divided by this, and I drag. Okay, and you can see here it's 0 because you don't actually. We could just get rid of this. Let's black this out. Okay, and then we can actually block this out as well. I'll keep facilities up here. Actually, you know what? It's a step down method. So you know what? I'll just block this out here. Okay, so it literally looks like your staircase, just big stairs. And you'll see when we do our third, you know what? I can just make it look visually like that for facilities really fast. Facilities, total allocation percentage. And then here we drag across. and I'll show you guys how it's going to look. Okay, let's go get rid of that. Actually, you could put this here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And now, guys, it'll look like a staircase, a proper staircase. You see here, there's the first stair, second stair, and third. Okay, so that's how it's going to look. We'll deal with that a little bit later. And sorry, that's tech support. Okay, so there we go. That was the first thing. Okay, now the next thing. All right, so going through this, all right, we have our percentages here. That's where we were at. Now let's solve it. So let's put round it. Well, not actually round it. You know, Excel never actually rounds it. So let's do it. So we have 63,125 in cost. Tech support uses 13.79% of IS. So equals minus this times 13.79% roughly. That gives you 8,706.9. Okay. Then you have 63,125 in cost. Okay. Programming uses 34.48 hours from information systems. And then, guys, last but not least, training. Training uses 51.72% of the IS cost. So 51.72% times 63,125 in cost is 32,650. Okay, and we just sum up the row, and just like that, guys, 0 again, we're good. Now, last but not least, guys, our last staircase. Okay, the last support department, tech support. Now remember, guys, the tech support, the last support department, it looks exactly like the direct method because you're only helping the operating. Now, guys, we have 51,831 in cost. Okay, now remember, guys, the amount that you put here, the negative number, has to be the number that takes you to 0. Okay, because we have to take this cost and completely pass it over to the operating departments. Okay, so we have to make sure the cost after allocation is 0. So we're going to do equals minus sum and add this all up because we have 30,000 cost before allocation. But then, guys, tech support gets a certain cost passed over from facilities. We get passed over costs from information systems. So the final cost that tech support is going to allocate to programming and training is 51,831.9. Okay. Now tech support, guys, allocates based on hours. This is where we go look at the table. And then we just have to put all our allocations here. So even though tech support helps information facilities with 18,000 and 2,000 hours respectively, because it's the last support department, you're going down the stairs, tech support only helps who comes after. So they only help programming and training. So here, guys, let's go erase all this because there shouldn't be a number here. Okay, so for programming, okay, for tech support, they offer 60,000 hours to programming, 40,000 to training. So the total allocation is 100,000. Okay, which basically means 60% and 40%, very similar to what we did above, or not very similar, exactly like what we did above for tech support, because in the last support department looks exactly like the direct method. So guys, now here we have 831.9 in cost. Okay, 60% is passed over to programming. We have 831.9 in cost. 40% is passed over to training. And now last but not least, guys, we add it up. 224,741.38 for programming, 325,258.62 for training. And just like that, guys, you have now done a past midterm question for cost allocation. Well, actually, wait, we have one more required. I get too excited. We have more required. So we've done the bulk of it though, guys. Okay, we've done the hard part. Okay, so I hope everyone saw that this wasn't too bad, right? You put in all your costs for allocation, you set up your ranking, right? Then you build out your proportion matrix, and it's always, guys, percentage times the amount of cost you need to allocate, right? That's what you're doing every single time. It's just how much cost is there, and then how much did you use? If you used basically 20% of the cost, you should pay 20% of this amount, right? So it's always proportion times cost to be allocated. We did that here. IS, the proportion was this, and then we had 13%. And you see here, look at our staircase. It literally looks like a staircase here, even the proportion matrix. Okay, so get good at building your staircase, guys. It's critical. All right. So everyone, that's it for required 1 and required 2. Now let's get required 3. Explain the differences between the methods which should be used. Okay, so guys, like I said, Aqua 330, you're in your major classes now. You're going to have to do some type of theory. So I'm letting you know now, you have to get good at some type of analysis. This is why I say to read the book. So guys, we basically need to explain and always chip the part one by one. So a theory question, it may confuse you at first, but just chip at it one part at a time. So let's just start off here, because Onwood basically is just, again, the question here, he basically wants to use a step down or direct. So he's asking you what's the difference between the methods, guys, and that should be pretty straightforward here. So I'm just going to give you the answer, and then I'll explain it to you. Okay, so what's the difference between the methods? And we could just explain on a high level even before I show you the answer. I swear I'm not reading it. Just the direct method, there's no allocation between support departments, right? Whereas the step-down method, there's some allocation between support departments, right? And we could say now the advantage or disadvantage is like the direct method, right off the bat, we could see here, right? It's less accurate, but it's easier to use, right? Because there's no ranking to do, there's no ranking to do. Right? So it's always like this, guys. Like if you do less work, okay, it's going to be less accurate. But what's the benefit of doing less work? That it costs less. So like an advantage of the direct method is like it's easier to use because it's very easy to calculate. It's less expensive, right? I swear I'm not reading my answers. It's just me thinking just out of pure logic. Just it's easier to use, which means it's less expensive. Okay, so it's still feasible. That's an advantage to it. But what's the disadvantage if it's less expensive, not less expensive, but what's the disadvantage of the direct method? Well, it's not as accurate because you're doing less work. Okay, so always remember that, guys. Like less work means less expensive. Okay, but it's also less accurate because you're doing less work. Whereas the step-down method is more accurate. It's going to be more expensive. It's more expensive, right? It takes more time to implement. It's a little bit more complicated to do, but it gives you a more accurate number, right? Because at least there's some allocation, which is better than zero. And sorry, guys, let me just put these zeros here for the step-down method. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me give you the final answer, guys, that I wrote, and I wrote it well, so you'll be able to read this. So the direct allocation method allocates support department costs directly to the operating departments without considering the services that support departments provide with each other. Okay, so you always want to write it a little bit smart, but that's the key thing here. We first explained the direct method, right? The difference between the two is the direct method, okay, doesn't look at the difference, doesn't look at the allocations between support departments. Whereas on the other hand, the step-down allocation method partially accounts for inter-support department services, which provides more accurate allocation of support costs, right? So that's the key word here, guys. It partially accounts, right? Some inter-support department. Okay, so that's the key difference here. Now, which method would you use and why? So I wrote it here, this pretty quick. Okay, so let's go put this here. So which method should you use? When they ever ask you which method you should use, guys, and this just goes back to just how to do any type of analysis in like the real world. You want to just list like a pro and con. Okay, you don't want to spend too much time on this, but just list a quick pro and con for each and then conclude. So this is how I did it. For the direct method, I wrote simple to calculate as it requires less effort and less expensive than other methods. Okay, and the disadvantage is it's less accurate, does not consider a relationship between support departments. Now for the step-down method, more fair than the direct method as it recognizes some activity between support departments, right? It partially accounts for inter-support department services, like we mentioned up here, right? But requires support division to be ranked by some method, which could be viewed as unfair. So remember we spoke about in question 1, right? The criteria of good cost allocation, right? One of the criteria was like the fairness or equitability. Like why does some support departments have some costs allocated to them, but not others? Right? It could be viewed as unfair, so it's not a good thing. And guys, by the way, there's much more advantages and disadvantages in the book. These are just like the best ones to use. So this is like the top 2. Okay, so I would use these before anything else, but you could go look at the book, and that's why I always say read the book and you'll see more stuff. Okay, now in conclusion, as there are many support departments who help each other, the method I would recommend is a step-down method, as there's a significant amount of services exchanged between the support departments. Okay, so guys, because there's because there was a lot of support departments and there was a lot of exchange between support departments, that I believe the step-down method is appropriate, right? Let's just pretend, guys, for fun, because, nothing's more fun than 330. Let's just pretend here, okay? Like there was no allocation between support departments in the first place. Would you use the step-down method? The answer is no. There's no point, right? If there's no allocation between support departments, why would you even try to recognize in the first place? There's no point doing the step-down method, because then you're going to spend more costs on implementing the step-down method. Because guys, whenever you want to do something in real life, there's a cost associated to it, right? So doing the step-down method, right, to implement the step-down method, you're going to have to put a lot of costs in, and it's going to be the same result as the direct method, right? So here what I said was, because there's a lot of like interactivity between support departments, use the step-down method, okay? So that's what I concluded on, guys. And at the end of the day, whenever you ask what method to recommend, I'm just going to let you know now, like you recommend reciprocal. All right, this question was a tricky past midterm question because they didn't ask you about reciprocal, right? They said they're only deciding between the two, right? Direct and step down. But if you were given all three, guys, you would definitely recommend reciprocal because it's the most fair, right? Because the reciprocal, like everything's reciprocated, right? The amount that you use, the amount that you pay. So it is viewed as the most fair. So, and then you can even say here if you really want, it's not part of the question, guys, but you could say, I would also recommend to Onwood to research to implement the reciprocal method. I can't even spell reciprocal. How do you spell that? R-E-C, reciprocal, whatever. I'm not great on spelling here. That's definitely not how you spell it, right? R-E-C-I, reciprocal. I think that's how it's spelled. I would also ask Onwood. I would recommend Onwood to implement the reciprocal method. I would ask Onwood to also consider to do the, because basically what I'm trying to say is basically inform Onwood that the reciprocal method exists, let him do his own research into it, and then afterwards you could tell him maybe do this. I'd ask Onwood to consider the use of the reciprocal method as it is viewed as more fair than the step-down method, as it fully recognizes the interactivity between support departments. I'll say it like this also. While John Onwood did not mention reciprocal. So yeah. Okay, and now guys, this is extra. I'll actually put this, one second, not delete. Control C, let me put this here. This is extra. Guys, on your exam, you will not have time to write this much, but this is just for me, just teaching you. Okay, so because you should always recommend the reciprocal because it's most fair. But on your exam, guys, you won't have this much time. It'll be like this question, I think it's like 3 marks or something like that. So you don't want to waste your time writing it. We spend a little bit more time now because we're in the weekly tutorials. So it's good to kind of just go over the theory. So yeah, because here they just told you that John Onwood didn't mention reciprocal, but it should definitely be considered because it's the most fair. Like my spelling, reciprocal. There we go. Okay. Now, guys, just like that, you've now done a past midterm question for chapter 15 on period cost allocation. Wow. You can tell how tired I am. Okay. So guys, hope you enjoyed the recording. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll see you in the next one.